there's a few parts of CSS that I think we can spend some time paying closer attention to. And in order to do that, I would like to just build a whole new project very quickly. So let me close this. Okay, so we're going to have a very simple project just to explain or to demonstrate the elements that we're looking for. That will be an index file and a main.css. So I will save this right now, make a new folder called CSS demo, and this will be index.html. So we're going to have an index file and a new CSS file. So let me save that. And I will save it in exactly the same place, and we'll call it main.css. Okay, save. So you see the files have two different endings, HTML and CSS. And that's indicative to my computer that they're two different kinds of files. Even though they're both text files, they're both written in Unicode, they're different, radically different file types. So just like we might have an image file that's a JPEG and a WAV file that's an audio file, we have HTML and CSS files. So two different things. But HTML is kind of special, right, in that it can contain CSS inside of it, which is very unique and very powerful, and a special ability of web languages to do. Because, for example, if you were writing in C++, like, you could not put a Java file inside of that directly. Like, there's no way. The computer would just like break. Like, it would not be able to read that. So we can't do this in other programming languages, but we can do this in HTML. So that's very, very cool. Okay, so we have our basic, like most basic HTML file. Oh no, there was somebody waiting. Just a moment. Okay. They are admitted. All right, so we have our very most basic HTML file. And our two bits of structure that you should be super familiar with by now, which is the head and the body. So that's what we have here. And then inside of the head tag is where we're going to put our CSS, or if we don't put the CSS directly in there, we can call it from there. So calling is something that we are going to do very often, whether you're calling a file with another file, or whether you're calling an element, an HTML element with your CSS. It's kind of the same. It's pulling one element with another element so that you can link the two together and affect them by each other. Okay, so we have our head tag. In here we have our style tag. For some reason it's gray now. I hate this. Okay. And we have a possibility to make an external CSS or an internal one. We will also do, in order to call the CSS that we have on the side, we're going to do this link thing, which is link tag with href attribute. Very similar to the way that we call hyperlinks. We do the same href thing with them. Okay, so in our case, it's called main.css. So I'm going to just close this and reopen it because maybe I'm going to reopen it. because I would like the color coding to return. This is still not the correct color coding. So you can see this purple showing up, but our quotation marks have had everything in green so far. So this is annoying, but there's nothing I can do right now about it.
Is it because it's in the style tag?
The style tag is causing this confusion to happen, but it's not, it shouldn't be color coded this way. So Adam just does this sometimes, like the color coding just gets weird, and I I've solved it in the past by like deleting the empty spaces between the tags and then hitting enter again, or by like closing and opening documents. But that's what we would call a hack. Like I'm hacking around Atom. Like it's not a true solution. It just like kind of works sometimes. Although yes, this actually should not be inside the style tag, but that color thing, like there is no reason for it to have done that color thing to this. So we'll see what else will happen inside the style tag as we move forward. But okay, so we've called the main.css. So here I'm just going to make a paragraph and we can generate some lorem ipsum. Oh, this is like, there's a simpler website. Here we go. You can generate lorem ipsum in different languages now too, which is very funny. So lorem ipsum is fake Latin, for those of you who are not familiar with it. So it looks like Latin, but none of these words translate into anything meaningful. It's gobbledygook. Chosen to test typesetting machines to like see if the letters work well. Which is still useful for us today because if we're making a sample website, we don't necessarily want to make content if we're just testing, to see if our CSS works. Okay, so we have our very simple page with just some lorem ipsum on it. I'm going to drag this into Firefox. Here it is. This is what I made. Most basic thing you can have. And then since we have this link tag that's pulling in the style sheet, we can start to affect our content. So here, I'm going to call just the paragraph tags, since we have all these paragraph tags over here in our HTML page. I'm going to call the paragraph tags, and I'm going to say I want like a cursive typeface. Oh, look at that. Okay, I'm going to say I want a cursive typeface, and I've saved that, and let's see if that, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's see if that affects anything. Oh, great, it worked very nicely. It's only affected the first paragraph, so let's see why that is. Ah, I did not close this properly, so we have open paragraph, close paragraph, and then open the next paragraph. Oh, they're all inverted. And then we close the paragraph, open the next one, close it, open the next one, close it, open the next one, and then close it. Okay. Huzzah! Okay, so I've affected all of my paragraphs. It's great. So this is what HTML elements you can call directly in CSS, and then you can manipulate them. But let's say that this final paragraph is extra special to me. So I might give it an ID. Like, I want all of my final paragraphs to have an extra something. So graph. Yes, there we go. So this is me giving this p tag. So originally the p tag is just p in brackets, right? But in this case, I'm giving it a little something extra. I'm giving it an ID attribute that I set so that I can call it in CSS more easily. But I can't just write. Oh, and also in the case where I give my own names to elements, I will often just copy the name and then paste it into the CSS so I don't have to retype it and make a spelling mistake. So that's a tip for you right there. I can't just put it in there just like that because it doesn't understand what that name is linked to. So what I do is I put a little hashtag in front of it, and the hashtag tells CSS to look for IDs. So you can see that this ID attribute is blue, as opposed to, for example, this rel or href. And then it's blue here. So that's an indication that they're connected somehow. And that tells the CSS to like look at the HTML, and if there is an ID, that's what the hash represents, named final paragraph, then do something to that. So cool. I am going to make it smaller, a little bit smaller than the rest of the text we have. So let's say, but I still want everything to be pretty big. So I'm going to say that this is 13 pixels. That might be very small. We'll see. And then I want to say that this is 15. So it's a little bit smaller, but I want it to be bold. So I want it to be darker but smaller. So it has extra emphasis on it. Okay. So here we go. It's a little smaller now. Maybe a little too small. And then these are lighter. So now I have this special final paragraph tag, and if I, let's say, had another page that was very similar, and it was like, I'll just call it second page. So I have another page that also has text on it, but it's going to have different kind of text. Let's do lorem ipsum in Bulgarian. I don't know that the letters will show up correctly. We can... Oh, what? It's just the interface that's in Bulgarian. That's like... It's no fun. I'm going to take this then. The different letters. I'm not even sure if I need to say something special for these letters to show up because they're not the Latin alphabet, the Roman alphabet that we use for English. So we'll find out. When I was very young, like there wasn't like a Russian alphabet on computers, so we learned how to type Russian in English letters or in Roman letters to make up for it. Okay, so we have our second page over here, and there's still, to this day, there's still lags in the ability of various computing systems to display various languages depending on the settings and things like that. For example, you can see that the Bulgarian text here does not italicize. So the italic quality does not propagate to this other alphabet. But anyway, so we have our other alphabet on the second page, and because we're linking the same style sheet, this is now our site-wide style sheet that's like affecting everything. Even though the content here is different, it's completely different content, but the appearance is the same because it's connecting to this style sheet in particular. And so we still have our final paragraph in bold and a little smaller. So that's what the IDs serve for. And then there's another kind of tagging we can do, which is the class. So class is represented with a dot. And I'm going to say pull quote. I want to have pull quotes on my page. So any special kind of sentence that I just want to like bring extra attention to. So I'm going to say the font size of my pull quotes is going to be like 24 pixels, and I'm going to say display block. So display block means that after you finish displaying this, go to the next line. Don't like keep going in the paragraph. So we have our pull quote over here. And now to apply this pull quote, all I have to do is go around and let's say I want to make this, just this part be a pull quote. We have a special HTML element that we can write, which is called a span. And basically what this element means is simply like an encapsulation or a highlight around anything. So it doesn't have its own behaviors. It's not automatically going to do anything. Like if I just leave it like this and we reload the second page, everything looks exactly the same. So the span in and of itself doesn't affect anything. But if I give the span the class of pull quote, so Adam is referencing it remembered this word that I typed. So it's referencing it over here. And now if I reload, we have our very big pull quote and it went to the next line afterwards. And so now I can go through and I can like pick all sorts of random things to make be pull quotes. So I did a few here, and then I'm gonna go to the index and like make some pull quotes here. Oops. Maybe this one. And now if we reload, you can see all this text that I've affected. And then if we go to the index, you can see the same thing. I've affected a couple of pull quotes over here. Here it looks like I didn't yet. So when I looked at this page, our Bulgarian page, I see that this whole thing got really big. So that's an indication to me that something is wrong in this bottom paragraph. So I went back to the code and I took a closer look at this, and I can see that it says span class equals pull quote, but then I closed it with an A tag instead of a span tag. So I will fix that. And now it's back the way it needs to be. All right, so those are spans, classes, IDs, HTML tags. Let's see what else. Okay, yes. So then we might want to have page-specific styling. So let's say maybe I want my English page to have a light pink background, but I want my Bulgarian page to have a light orange background. So this is a case in which we would put in which we would put something into our style tag on that page specifically rather than into our main CSS. So I'm going to say background. Yes, see, this purple is not supposed to be happening, but we will use it and see and hope that it works. I think, oh, sorry, body. Okay, great. And you might notice that I'm formatting my text a certain way. So I'm calling the tag over here. And then after I open the curly brace, I hit return so that my background color pink information is on its own line. And then I close the curly brace on its own line. And the reason I do this is because that makes it easier to read. Once I'm editing this page, I can easily just like scan the side of my document and find the thing I need. So I'm like, okay, great, background color is pink. Let's look at this. Background color is pink, fantastic. And then if we look at the Bulgarian page and I reloaded, background is still white. So you can see that it has not affected its neighbor. And then I can copy that, put it in here, but instead I'll say orange. And if I reload, it's Command R for reload. Now it's orange. Awesome. So we have two different colors, but we have the same italic styling and the same, like the last paragraph is in bold and pull quotes behave the same way on both, but the colors are different. So that's our embedded style sheet. And we say that it's embedded because the way that the style sheet is written hasn't changed. So here I write P open bracket, text, close bracket, and in here I write body, open bracket, and then the attributes, and then I close the bracket. However, there's the final thing that we might want to do, and that could be, let's say that I just want to highlight this lorem ipsum in particular, and I want it to be red, which is my highlighter color, but only this one, just because I have such a need in my design. So then I would make this inline style sheet, and this is where we're containing our style sheet like within the line of the tag. The whole thing is going to be in that line. So we're going to say style equals, so similar to opening and closing the style here, we're giving it the style equals attribute, and then we're going to say color is red. So this part is the same, but instead of calling a tag in specific, we're inside the tag already. So we're not going to say like span whatever, like, because we're already here. So I'm only giving it its attribute. And it's red, and that's our Bulgarian page. So then if we reload, you can see this one tiny red one over here. So that's the inline style sheet. I'm very sad that we can't generate lorem ipsum in Bulgarian. One thing we can do is go to Google Translate. This is very funny because it's not actual Latin. There we go. So now I've translated it. But since this is not actual Latin, whatever it translated to in Bulgarian here is not going to be actual Bulgarian. It's going to be like nonsense Bulgarian. We can even, just so that you can see for fun, what it translates to in English. Go on. Oh, here. But the mass of football, but then not English again, right? And then hatred is the gate, but then like Kongwei, what is that? Anyway, it's fun. Okay, so we have our embedded style sheet, and I think we've covered everything. Oh, and then finally, maybe we can go over this one more time. This is a fine image. Okay, so this is just, again, the general structure of CSS. We have our selector. That's the part that selects the other part that is in the HTML. So here we're selecting the body. Here we are selecting the paragraph. And then we have the properties, so that's the thing that we're actually going to affect, whether that is its size or its font style or color or whatever. And then we have the value that we're changing it to. So we can't just say that we're going to make it be of a different font size. We then have to tell it what font size to be. Or like we can't just say we're going to change the color. We then have to tell it what color we want in a specific kind of way. So that's the value. So that is the structure over here.